Can you feel it? The fire in your soul, leaping at the chance for love. Can you feel it? Haunting your senses, letting all your feelings go. But I can feel it rushing through my veins. Your love's the only drug I know. But we've been playing the hand now we're dead, so we can light it up. I know that we can make it through the night, but I can feel the fire inside, so there won't be no fear tonight. We crossed the line, and now it's clear to see the light behind the suffering. Believe we'll finally be free. Let the silhouette cast upon your heart, turning every little moment into scars. Baby, it's our chance to make a start, so we can fly.
I know that we will make it. I know that we will make it. I know that we will make it. I know that we.
I know that we can make it through the night, but I can feel the fire inside, so there won't be no fear tonight. We crossed the line, and now it's clear to see the light behind the suffering. Believe we'll finally be free.
When times are down, you know I'll be with you. Yeah, times are rough, this time I see it too. All the bullshit drama I can see right through. Everybody wants something they can't have, so they gon' put it on you. Wherever you go, yeah, you can take me there. Over the ocean, I can see us there. Let's run away and be forever young. We'll catch the sun where there's no need to run. Wherever you go, yeah, you can take me there. 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 I see you, and you see me too. We may be broke, but we see the truth. All this bullshit drama I can see right through. Everybody wants something they can't have, so they gon' put it on you. Wherever you go, yeah, you can take me there. Over the ocean, I can see us there. Let's run away and be forever young. We'll catch the sun where there's no need to run. Wherever you go, yeah, you can take me there. Yeah, you can take me there. Yeah, you can take me there. Yeah, you can take me there.
Every step I take is miles from where we started. I should have never walked away. And parts of me believe that I should have seen it coming. I wish we had another day. Looking back, I understand all the things that didn't go the way I planned. All these thoughts keep me awake. It's this feeling that I can't shake. But we kept running and running, the
Before we start tonight's episode, there's something that I have to do, and it hurts me to do this. But it has to be done. You'll find out why as the episode progresses throughout the night. But let's go ahead and start the show. Hello everybody, how are y'all doing? My name is Edson Ochoa, and I am pleased to be back for the second episode of Season 2 of your favorite podcast / videocast, whatever you want to call it. It's called Down in the Valley. I'm very pleased, like I said, for y'all to be with us, to join us. We're going to have a really good episode because there's a lot of different things that we have to talk about. First of all, we do have RGVFC, who had their continues to have their preseason here in Houston, Texas, as well as, for example, after this is over here in Houston, they'll be heading back. We'll talk more about preseason. We'll talk more about who they're going to be playing next, because they are going to be playing against UT-RGV as well. So we'll talk more about that. We also have, we'll talk about Malik Foster and his loan to RGVFC. It's kind of strange the way things have happened with Malik Foster. There's some information out there that makes it a strange acquisition. But from what we'll talk about, because we'll talk about the Dynamo matches, he has made an impact right away in this RGVFC lineup, as well as you guys in the YouTube chat. Be sure to leave, for example, any questions you guys might have, any topics you guys want to talk about. Be sure to leave it down there in the Discord chat. And if you want, the phone line will be open later on. It's up there, 956-622-5977. Before we continue on with this show, I just want to let you all know that be sure to hang out on Twitter. We'll be posting videos on everything that's happening in preseason, whatever we have available. Be sure to follow all our social media: Twitter @Down in the RGV, Facebook Down in the RGV, Instagram Down in the RGV. Be sure to follow all of our podcasting platforms where our show will be on. That is Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, the Apple Store, Soundcloud. I know I'm missing one. I think I'm missing one. I'll get to it eventually. But also, be sure to check out our friends at the Beautiful Game Network. They are partially responsible for why we are in so many podcasting platforms. Be sure to follow them on Twitter @TheBGNFM and @BGNWritten. That's where Ray posts his articles titled The Orange Blocks that talks about RGVFC. Also, be sure to check out their primary sponsor, which is Roughneck Scarves. Roughneck Scarves are the official scarf supplier of MLS, USL, and NCAA. We will be, like I said, we will be joined by Jacob and Ray. But for now, I guess we'll go ahead and dive in a little bit of what happened this weekend. Hey, Darby, how are you doing? We'll talk a little bit about what happened this weekend, as well as yesterday with the Toros against RGVFC. So, on Saturday, Houston Dynamo. I'm sorry. It's just that the past 2 years, if not 3 years, RGV was the one that hosted the Dynamo in their practice. Hey, what's up, Dad? Hey, so we're also now joined in by our co-host Jacob Young. Jacob, how are you doing, man?
Doing well. Looking forward to this podcast. I'm in my car at the moment, but it's all good.
Be sure to pay attention on the road, Jacob. No, seriously. So have a safe drive back home, So we were actually just going to start talking about the RGVFC preseason match against the Houston Dynamo, at least the first one that happened on Saturday. And it was really interesting, like I said, because usually RGVFC was the one that would host these matches. But this year, the Houston Dynamo decided to actually host these matches against RGVFC. They are, what was it? They used Saturday's match as their open practice. So it was interesting to see. I believe they said it was around 3,000 people that made it to BBVA Compass Stadium to watch this match against the Toros and the Dynamo. So, you know, I just think it's interesting that all of a sudden they made this change. But anyways, I think it helped our players, the ones that came back, and the trialists. They helped the players, you know, understand the facilities, Houston Sports Park, the coaching staff for the Dynamo, understand what it feels to play at BBVA Compass Stadium. And I think that's a lot more helpful in the long run if they want these players, you know, to be prepared, to be ready for if they're ever called up to the first team.
Yeah, that does make sense there. There's no reason for them not to be. I understand that they kind of need to be doing this. Actually, you know what? I will get back to you.
All right, sure. Well, we'll
that
be
was a bad idea.
Don't worry, man. We'll be right here. But yeah, like I was saying, guys, you know, I think it was proved really helpful to the players to understand what kind of environments they will be playing at, and so you know, 3,000 people helps a lot. You know, it's a lot more than I would feel that the RGV would go for one of these sessions. So, like I said, this match was actually divided into 3 different periods. This was the first period. It was starters versus starters, or what was considered starters for both teams at the time. Second period, you had, you know, your bench and your reserve players playing against each other. And then in the third session, you had RGV Gray versus RGV Blue. It was pretty much an inter-squad scrimmage for RGVFC. In the first half, the Dynamo took the lead, 1-0 lead, scored by Albert Elise. This was actually an interesting play because guys, whoever was at the match will not let me lie, and if I am lying the way I was told this goal happened, let me know. But AJ De La Garza takes the ball away from RGVFC and finds Albert Elise out on the wing. And, you know, typical Albert Elise, you know, his quickness, his agility, he just sprinted past the RGVFC defender and left him behind and was able to slot it past Joe Willis for the 1-0 goal. In fact, the Houston Dynamo a couple minutes before had the opportunity to open the scoreboard at that moment, but with a penalty kick. But Albert Elise shot was blocked by Joe Willis. So at the end of the first period, RGVFC only lost 1-0 to the Houston Dynamo. I know I'm probably kind of saying, well, being ecstatic, I think is a correct word, because last year with a new coach, completely new roster, a lot of trialists, the Dynamo went to RGB and beat us 9-0 or 9-1, something around there, but it was 9. The Dynamo scored 9 goals. This year in the first match, we only limited it to 1 goal. So that's a huge improvement between last year and this year to the Houston, to RGVFC. which is something that I'm pretty sure all of you guys that are fans of the RGVFC Toros are pretty happy about. I know there's a couple of Houston Dynamo fans on right now that are listening to us at this moment in this live stream. Let me know what you all thought. I know this isn't Gen Orange, but it'd be interesting to see what you all thought about RGVFC this year. What did you think? Were you surprised that that they were able to keep up with the Houston Dynamo? Let me know. This is your show as well. If you guys want to call us, I'll actually go ahead and connect the phone. You guys want to call and tell us about what your experience at the game was. The phone number is 956-622-5977. Once again, 956-622-5977. So in the second period, actually before I go on with that, let me go ahead and tell you what was the rosters or the starting 11s for both teams in that first quarter or the first period. So the Houston Dynamo started with Joe Willis on goal, DeMarcus Beasley, Kevin Garcia, Alges Kiki Struna, AJ De La Garza, Matias Vera, Juan David Cabezas, Tomás Martinez, Romel Kyoto, Mauro Manotas, and Albert Elise. These are the main players that, for the most part, not including Kiki Struna and Matias Vera, these are the main players, the ones that were the starters for the Houston Dynamo last season. And then for RGVFC, you have Tyler Derrick, Sam Junqua, Kyle Adams, Connor Donovan, Andrew Samuel, Eric Bird, Brad Dunwell, Jesus Enriquez, Andres Arcila, Andres Cabrera, and Carlos Esmal. You can see how with the Toros, there's a lot more different players compared to last season. You have Sam Junqua and Brad Dunwell, which were the Dynamo's draft picks in this past Super Draft. You have Tyler Derrick, who's a Houston Dynamo. You have Andrew Samuel, which I'm assuming is a trialist. Eric Bird, a reserve player for the Dynamo. Andres Arcila, who had been training with the Toros, if memory serves correctly. Like, he's been coming and going. I think he's been playing in college, but he's trialing for the Toros right now. And Andres Cabrera, Coach Wilmer Cabrera's son, and Carlos Esmal. So, which makes it a lot more interesting that they were able to keep the Dynamo to only one goal in the first period. So in the second period, you had Tyler Derrick and Joe Willis kind of switch teams. Tyler went to Houston. Joe Willis went to RGV. The Dynamo had, besides Tyler Derrick, Adam Lundqvist, Sam Junqua, Alejandro Fuenmayor, Chris Duval, Darwin Seren, Boniek Garcia, Tommy McNamara, Memo Rodriguez, Marlon Hairston, and Andres Cabrera. While RGV had Joe Willis, Carlos Viveros, Kyle Adams, Eric McHugh, Sebastian Gonzalez, James Murphy, Hector Copete, Brandon Morales, our homegrown, Brian Orozco, Malik Foster, and Aldo Quintanilla. So, like I said, a lot more trialists, a lot more new players that are coming into RGVFC. They were able to hold the Dynamo to a 0-0 draw in that second period. And in the third period, you had, obviously, that RGVFC inter-squad match, which ended 1-0, I believe, thanks to an own goal that gave the lead to RGV Gray. And then Tuesday, we had another match, but this time it was at Houston Sports Park. It was not open to the public. And the Toros looked a lot sharper in this match from what I've been told. In the 9th minute, the Toros had their first dangerous opportunity. James Murphy, who is a trialist, who was waived by LAFC, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what Carson told me last night. James Murphy steals the ball from the Houston Dynamo in the midfield and opens it up to Aldo Quintanilla. And Aldo Quintanilla sends a through ball over to Malik Foster, who sends a crossed shot that Joe Willis is unable to save. Actually, it's caught by Joe Willis. And then in the 30th minute, that's when Malik Foster was able to score the goal. In the 30th minute, unable to be stopped by Joe Willis. So starters of RGV versus starters of the Houston Dynamo. RGV won 1-0 in the first half, the first 45 minutes. Second half, once again, both teams used their alternate squads. 3 minutes after halftime, Tommy Mack receives a foul inside the box. The referee calls a penalty, no doubt. McNamara actually misses the penalty. It is actually blocked by Joe Willis, but the rebound lands back at Tommy Mack, and he is able to shoot the ball inside the goal, give the 1-1 draw. And then in the 88th minute, just about when the game was about to finish, the Dynamo actually get the winning goal after a corner kick that was kicked by Memo Rodriguez. It hits Kevin Garcia. He's able to kind of change the trajectory a little bit. The ball lands on Marlon Hairston right outside the 6-yard line, and he's able to just shoot the ball inside the goal to give the Houston Dynamo a 2-1 final score. In the first period, the Houston Dynamo played with Joe Willis, DeMarcus Beasley, Alejandro Fuenmayor, Kiki Struna, Chris Duval, Matias Vera, Juan David Cabezas, Tomas Martinez, Romel Kyoto, Mauro Manotas, and Albert Elise. The biggest thing that I find surprising out of this is that the Toros were able to keep Albert Elise on a leash. He wasn't able to score a goal. And then the Toros played with Tyler Derrick, Sergio Mena, Robert Castellanos, Connor Donovan, Sebastian Gonzalez, Jesus Enriquez, James Murphy, Eric Bird, Josue España, Malik Foster, and Aldo Quintanilla. What I find really interesting from here, and I'm just going by the actual XI, not necessarily from what anybody has seen from the match, but it looks like Aldo Quintanilla was playing as a winger in the first half. And in the second half, the Dynamo played with Tyler Derrick, Adam Lundqvist, Sam Junqua, Kevin Garcia, Andrew Samuels, Darwin Seren, Boniek Garcia, Memo Rodriguez, Tommy McNamara, and Andres Cabrera and Marlon Hairston, while RGV played with Joe Willis on goal, Robert Coronado, Eric McHugh, Kyle Adams, Zach Jackson, who's an academy player, by the way, Aníbal Cabrera, Brad Dunwell, Victor Garza, who is finally back from a long injury. So I applaud Victor Garza, McAllen native, Brian Orozco, Carlos Esmal, and Johnny Paredes. So what do y'all think so far? Darby says, I was really impressed with RGV. I think the Dynamo were trying to settle into the new groove and so weren't at their best, but they were playing rough and RGV didn't back down and kept up really well. It just goes to show you how these guys have found a lot of confidence lately, especially during the offseason. I know it's not easy, especially when you have some players in the midfield that were leaders, and now you don't have them anymore. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes when we have the other guys with me. But they were able to keep at it and show that they were not going to back down against an MLS team, and it makes you very hopeful for what 2019 will bring, especially with Malik Foster. I heard a lot of good things from these two matches, especially from Tuesday. I think the guys from the Dynamo Discord were telling me that the Malik Foster was a beast whenever he played. So I'm really, really, really excited about what Malik Foster will bring into this lineup for the 2019 season. The only gripe that I have about it is that apparently Malik Foster will only be with us at RGVFC Toros for until May, because Alajuelense, who owns his rights, because he was loaned to RGV from Alajuelense. So Alajuelense wants him back by the beginning of the next season. And so apparently he's only on a short-term loan until May. And the reason that this is happening is because the Toros, or not the Toros, Alajuelense recently signed a new defender who is also an international player. And so the rules in the Costa Rican League limits the amount of internationals that they could play. Another thing that happened is that because Malik Foster had played for, I believe it's a Jamaican team that plays in the CONCACAF League, let me get the information, because I don't want to say incorrect information about Malik Foster. Okay. Anyways, apparently because he already played with that Jamaican team and he played with Alajuelense, he could not be transferred over to another team that follows the regular calendar year. Therefore, he has to go and play for other leagues that have a different calendar, and that includes USL, that includes MLS, and I believe that also includes the Russian league. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, he says he could be loaned, but he cannot be in Costa Rica, and neither in the majority of the leagues of Europe, because they are in the same calendar as the Jamaican and Costa Rican league. The problem is that he played with Portmore United and with Alajuelense in the FIFA calendar year, which begins in the 1st of July of 2018 and ends in the 30th of June in 2019. And he says that they say here in La Nacion, independently if Alajuelense buys him or not, Foster could be loaned to leagues like MLS or Scandinavian like Sweden, Norway, and Finland, which are recognized by FIFA to have a calendar that goes from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. So that's how they kind of got away with this whole process, in order to let Malik Foster continue to play. Now, Sean tells me that this was a loan to buy option, but I highly doubt that Alajuelense would accept the buy option, because they really want this player. But I guess we'll see what happens in May when that happens. But like I said, you know, he's starting off on the right foot. He's already scored a goal for the Toros against the Houston Dynamo. So it's a good first impression I get from him. All right, so let's see what else we can talk about. Excuse me. If you guys were watching this stream before I actually started the show, you guys probably noticed that I said I need to do something before the show starts, and it's going to hurt me with all my heart. And then you notice that on the waiting screen, I replaced Todd Warden with Brandon Morales. And you're probably wondering why I did that. Well, that's because this is official information, breaking news. Portland Timbers 2 have announced that the signing of Todd Warden for the 2019 season. So Captain Warden is no longer with the Toros. It makes sense based on what Matt Jordan has talked about here in Houston with Glenn Davis on his show. And that is that these players are at maximum going to stay 3 years with the Toros to see how they develop, see if they're first team ready for the Houston Dynamo. And as surprising as it sounds, the Houston Dynamo believes that Todd Warden still was not ready for a chance of getting an MLS contract with the Houston Dynamo. Or maybe he was, but the reason is because they brought in Matias Vera, because they have Juan David Cabezas, because they already have Eric Bird, because they also have Darwin Seren. There's so many players in that position of the holding midfielder. Therefore, he was not going to be able to get minutes, or wasn't worth giving him an MLS contract. And as sad as that sounds, you know, he wasn't going to stay with the Toros. As much as the fans loved him, as much as we loved him, the Dynamo says if they're not going to be for MLS future, then they should not be with the Dynamo or with the Toros. So he has signed with Portland Timbers 2, like I said. We wish him, at least personally, I wish him the best of luck. He was my favorite player from the Toros. I even actually had a Captain America wallpaper created in his created for the wallpapers by Aki Anime. That will stay. That one will stay because like I said, he's my favorite player. But Todd Warden is not. Is now with Portland Timbers 2, which is interesting because that's another MLS 2 team. But hey, it looks like we have the gangs all here. What's up, Jacob and Ray?
Well, how's it going, Edson?
Did you guys just hear? Did you guys hear the news?
Yes, I'm sobbing right now.
Well, this is the first that I've heard of it. Very upsetting, considering that. In my eyes, of course, I'm not Houston Dynamo, though, but in my eyes, he seemed like he could have been worth it for the Dynamo first team.
Mm-hmm.
Why maybe they saw something that we didn't.
But think about it. And
I could tell he could lead a team. He could help lead and make teams have chemistry.
But think about it, and I just mentioned it right now. I mean, look at the depth of the defensive, the holding midfielder position. You have Matias Vera. You have Juan David Cabezas. You have Eric Bird. You have Darwin Seren. And you have, who else? I know there's one more player that I'm missing that also plays in that position. So there's a lot of competition out there. And I don't think they really had the need to bring in somebody from USL to give him an MLS contract and not play him, you know, because you have to remember once he signs an MLS contract that his salary counts against the salary cap.
Yeah, but it goes back as well to. I don't know, because he never really needed to bring in Darwin Seren, because guess what? All he does is gets red cards and yellow cards for Houston Dynamo and accumulates those, and he's out for half the season due to that.
Yeah.
Do that.
Right.
It's kind of weird. Yes, I do see that there is. But at the same time, let's look at the past years. We've had so much injury that it's scary to say that we don't need more players in that position.
That's true. Right?
Well, I'm a little bit disappointed that the Dynamo didn't try to retain Wharton here. But let's take a look at it from this standpoint. Okay, he had 3 full seasons to develop. Houston bought players at that position, thus making that trajectory a little bit more difficult for Todd.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, was he able to pick up a couple of things in his last season? Yes, he was. But at the end of the day, They saw Bird, they saw Wharton, and they felt like Bird might have been the better choice for that. Now, as far as the disciplinary record, yes, I'll side with Jacob here because the disciplinary record of that player has been very, very questionable. It's been very suspect at times too.
And not only in the disciplinary aspect of it, like he was one of the most underwhelming players. Well, besides what was his name? Arturo Alvarez. Besides Arturo Alvarez, he was in a different league as far as disappointment. But Darwin Sarin looked very lackluster last season when it was his time to play. He lost a lot.
The only memorable game that Darwin Sarin had was the opening game against Atlanta, and then he just disappeared off the map.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. It surprised me that he was able to stay for this season, but I was like, okay, well, I guess. Although, to be fair, knowing the Dynamo's track record in these kind of things with players that they get from the USL, from the Toros, and move them up to the first team, I think it's a better opportunity for Todd Wharton to continue to develop at his with T2. I mean, I have a feeling that we will see Todd Wharton a couple of times with Portland Timbers, at least in the Open Cup.
I would agree there. I mean, I think Portland may have suited his needs to kind of get that MLS footing into a place there.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at T2's track record of creating MLS players, they've had quite a few that were hit and miss, and now they are at other organizations.
Mm-hmm.
I'll even use Romelio Hernandez. That was a guy that was a draft pick by the Timbers, spent time with T2, didn't necessarily make it, and yet the Toros retained his rights to kind of hopefully get those second and third year out of Romelio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I mentioned before, you have to remember what Matt Jordan has been saying, for a long time, what we've been saying on our show for a long time. I mean, just take a look. I mean, we also lost Kai Green for the same exact reason, and that is because they were here since 2016, both Todd and Kai. They were the only ones left from the first season, if I'm not mistaken now, and never made it to the MLS, and they're like, well, we don't need you anymore. Even though you're, like I said, even though you're a fan favorite, even though you are one of our best players statistics-wise, and I'm talking about both, because I think even Kai Green was really good statistics-wise last season on the defense, but you're not essential because you're not going to go to the MLS.
That's a good point. And I mean, what's really funny about this conversation is I can hear Sean right now saying make it to the MLS and probably make it to the MLS because he was here from 2016. Well, none other than Todd Wharton. I mean, I hear that in Sean's voice right now, just due to the fact that we've had so many of those players go particular way. But once again, we look at who's coaching Houston Dynamo at the moment, who's coaching the Portland Timbers, because again, and even I think Powell won't be there for the next coming years. And if you think of it that way, to necessarily replace them. And so I think for the Portland Timbers too, I think he just needs some more time, which it's on the edge, as in if he doesn't make it in the next year into the MLS, don't expect him to make it to the MLS at all.
That's actually a really valid point. So, what are y'all's thoughts? Kind of going back on the subject that I first talked about on the show, but I want to get y'all's thoughts on these two matches that the Dynamo had against RGV, or at least, or actually, let me phrase it this way: what did you think about RGVFC holding the Dynamo to only a 1-goal lead in both matches?
It just shows the great improvements that that the back line has made during the off season. I mean, now that they had a full professional season under their belts, and knowing that they were going to face the first team, this is actually a sign of encouragement for the Toros, knowing that they're going to be able to have a steady back line, because last year it was just a bunch of unknowns thrown into the ring of fire, and now they were able to get some quality minutes against the first team, and now it shows that these guys are ready to hopefully take that next step possible in a more professional manner.
Yeah, it's exactly. And to add on to what Ray said, remember last year at around this time, the players that we have now, they thought, oh, I can easily make it to the first team. And then obviously they played against the first team, and I believe they just got destroyed. I don't necessarily remember the score line. It was something like 5 goals.
No. That's extremely conservative. I'm not lying when I say that the Dynamo scored 9 goals.
Yeah, exactly. 9 goals. Boom. But they matured. They said, you know what, I want to make it to the first team, and you're under our belt. And that's exactly what Ray said. It's just, there's hope as long as the Houston Dynamo stay healthy for this season, as in, if RGVFC make the playoffs, it's because Houston Dynamo did stay healthy, and all of those extra games that Houston's been playing, they basically didn't need to take RGVFC players.
Well, that's what I hope for, honestly. That the Dynamo does not have to raid the closet of RGV and come for our players. That's all. That's really all I hope for. That we continue to let these players continue to develop and get accustomed to each other, and hopefully finally be back in a playoff spot. I know, with talking with Coach Echeverry 2 weeks ago, you know, his mentality, his vision is winning the championship, and it should be like he said, because if you're not playing to win the championship, then why are you competing? And so hopefully we can at least have a competitive team, which we saw in the second half of last year's season. But I think this season will be a whole lot better. And I hope that the RGV fans understand this, and the Houston Dynamo fans as well need to understand the importance of for RGV to be competitive and be one of the best in the USL, because at the end it benefits the Dynamo as well, because they're gonna receive players that are very competitive, that are very talented, and that hey, if they were on top in the USL, that's gonna mean that there should be at least kind of have the potential to be a good backup in MLS, because if they're not competitive in USL, what makes you think that they're going to be competitive in MLS? So, people that say, "Oh, well, results don't matter when you're a farm team," they're lying. That's what I have to say in that. So those are my words, and quote me on it, or fight me outside.
Well, I mean, exactly, because look at teams that have actually won the league, won the USL. Obviously stands out in particular, and that's the Red Bulls too.
Yep.
The Pink Cows too, as Ray likes to call them. they've won the league, and they're technically a farm team.
Yes.
You look at the
That
poll
they can do it. If they, basically they've proven if they can do it.
They haven't done any since their inception into the USL.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, back to what I was saying. Basically, it's they've won it, and that's
And so
all you need.
Yeah, I mean, so you talk about the Red Bulls, and last year in CONCACAF Champions League, they used a lot of players that used to be in the Red Bulls too, and they were competitive. They made it to the semifinal. They lost against Chivas, but they made it to the semifinal in CONCACAF with not only their good players, but they were also surrounded by ex-USL players. It just goes to show, if you're good in USL, you continue to develop, you're going to be a good backup in MLS. And that's the way you see it. You take a look. I mean, you take a look at T2, S2. They don't have as much success in bringing up players up onto the first team that actually stand out and do a good team, because these teams, Portland and Seattle, why they are successful is because of the players that they bring in from outside. Your Raul Ruiz-Diaz's, your Sebastian Blancos, who else? Nico Lodeiro. You know, that's why they're successful. They're not successful because of your backups or your roster fillers. The Red Bulls are good because they might not have the best players, well, except for Wright Phillips. That's a standout. But other than that, it's players that are average, a little bit above average. But the players that fill the rest of the roster, they are talented players that were within the system for a long time, and they grew up with the system since they were kids in the academy, in Red Bulls too. By the time when they make it to the first team, they already know how the first team plays because it's the same system throughout the years that they've been through the academy.
Yeah, and I think we will start to see that maybe in 2 or 3 years, as in the players that will grow up with the system. Because of the fact that we're getting, Edinburgh has basically already launched the Toros school, and I know my cousin, he plays there and very successful, or very good, really.
Yeah.
They're using the same system that obviously RGVFC is using. And so that's a huge step. We're going to see more and more talent go through there, and obviously go to Houston Dynamo, and even maybe.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens this season, and see what kind of changes happen within the organization. Ray, you have anything to add?
No, sir.
All right, so preseason's going on right now, and RGV Toros had these first 2 matches. So let's go ahead and actually listen to what both Malik Foster and Coach Echeverry talked about after Tuesday's game. We'll go ahead and start with Malik Foster. So don't go away just yet.
So, Malik, you've been with the teams for a few days. How do you feel like you're settling in with all your new teammates so far?
Well, it's a pretty good feeling to be around my teammates. They show me love. They show me the support that I needed, that a player needed to play soccer. So, yeah, I feel good and I feel comfortable in the squad.
How did you feel in the scrimmage today? How do you feel like your performance was?
Well, my performance was even better than the last time because actually, you see, I scored a goal. So, I'm pretty pleased with my performance, and yeah.
You feel like you're obviously there's still a few weeks left until the season starts for real, but do you feel like you're starting to get into that rhythm again?
Yes, I'm feeling that rhythm, so I feel like I'm going to have a great season.
And tell me about the goal. Can you kind of walk me through what happened on that play and what took place from your perspective at least?
Well, I see my teammate with the ball, so I see the space. So as any coach will always tell you, attack the space. So I attack the space, and my teammate played the ball through. So and I try to beat the goalkeeper. I see that I couldn't score, so I take a next touch and chop it back, and then shoot to the goal. So it was just a striker in thing. Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, Coach, how do you think the scrimmage went overall this morning for you guys?
Well, I think extremely positive. I think on both halves, the guys came. I thought we were a lot more organized defensively, particularly the first half. I felt that the combinations of some of the players in regards to being on the same page was much, much better. And that was helpful for us to keep our organization. The second 45, there were a couple of moments in which we weren't quite as organized, and they had an easier way of going around us. But I thought overall we improved in that. Also, when we had the ball, I thought we were a little bit better. Some of the decisions were a lot better, and at least we were able to create some chances.
So let's look at the first period in specific for a second. You guys seem to be on the front foot a lot more, had a lot more of the ball. What did you see in the attack in that first 45?
I thought the guys were trying to play together, so I felt that the ball was moving. They were trusting each other. A couple more days of at least training and knowing each other, I think that helps. And so, you know, they kept it simple and used each other. So I think when we had numbers around the ball and we were able to move the ball around, it definitely, you know, created a couple opportunities.
So we talked to you on Saturday after the first scrimmage. You know, you talked about how it only been a few days, and obviously it's only been 48 hours since then. But do you feel like they're little by little starting to come together? And I guess what kind of growth have you seen over the last couple of days from them?
Well, I thought yesterday we worked a little bit, you know, some on mobility, a couple of patterns to help each other at least understand where on the field we need to be to support each other. And there are a couple of times in which we saw that, so that was very positive for them to at least have that understanding. But more importantly is the trust to play the balls to each other there. So that was extremely pleasing.
And kind of looking at specific players, Malik Foster was very dangerous in the first period. We talked to him a little bit ago, and he was saying how he's starting to settle in and get comfortable with his teammates. What did you see from him still being new to the team?
Well, the one thing you see is the athleticism and pace that he has. You know, he's not the biggest guy, but he moves. He's very, very quick. His runs of the ball are really, really good. So, and I think that some of our guys need to adapt to knowing when he runs how to play that early, because he takes off so fast that we don't want to catch him off sides. So some of them are starting to understand that and realize that. And like I said, I thought the ball moved much better. So we share the ball, and he's very dynamic. He can easily get behind defenses if they're not careful, especially if they're playing a little high. So his timing of the runs was very good.
And then the third period where you had your guys playing an inter-squad scrimmage, you had a lot of the Dynamo Academy 19s playing with you. How do you feel like those kids are starting to integrate into with the pros?
Oh, I thought it was positive. Obviously, us being here, it's a great opportunity for us to integrate some of them, some of the guys that we're identifying, and we're looking to see if there's a possibility of them moving with us or the first team for that matter. So it's interesting to have them around, and I think at first they're a little shy, but there's some really good players, and right now it's just a matter of getting them there with us, getting them out there training, playing, and being in that environment, and I thought that they assimilated quite well.
Awesome. Appreciate
it. All right, guys, so what'd you think of Coach's words or Malik Foster's?
You know,
well, I mean,
I would expect the first 6 weeks to be a work in progress, but after the 7th week of the season or the 7th game, I think if we don't get the ball rolling as a unit, this team might end up struggling the way we did last season. And that's all I'm going to say.
Jacob?
Well, I mean, he said it perfectly. Just, yeah, it is really positive that just the way that with him and even the Houston Dynamo Academy of the 19-year-olds. Very positive, and even for Foster, or even for that player, you can tell that he's more confident than he was. Obviously, I scored a goal, so much better than the last time. And basically what I want to see is just that confidence boost to say, especially when we get back to Edinburgh, when we get back to Hidalgo County, we will see we're going to be able to win games at home and be more confident even on the road and things.
I think I think my biggest thing is hopefully that our attackers can be a little bit more consistent instead of being streaky. That's what happened a lot last season. On the offense, we got on a roll for about like 3-4 games. And then all of a sudden you hit a long lull where the offense could just wasn't able to score a goal. They had a really bad scoring drought, and I think if the offense was more consistent, if our defenders would maintain concentration throughout the whole 90, and not just 80 plus minutes, where we had a lot of games happen where we either lost or we tied. Yes, la tragedia. In the last minutes in the 90 in stoppage time. So if that is kept to a minimum, I think this team might be very, very competitive. This might be a team that RGV fans will love.
Look, I would satisfied if we don't have that one guy potting in the goals. If it was like an even distribution between midfielders and forwards on a regular basis, instead of having that one frontal guy potting them in, that would be great. I would rather have balanced scoring from the midfielders and forwards instead of having that one key guy doing everything.
You mean like, for example, last year we had Ricardo Small being that player?
Let's push it even further back, although our main guy for about 4 to 6 weeks, and then we went on a spell where no one couldn't find the back of the net.
That's true. But well, let's see what happens during preseason. These two games, although it was against the Dynamo, I know Darby was saying, well, the Dynamo's probably kind of not playing all of their cards right now in order to avoid injuries because you got CONCACAF Champions League coming up right now. It's still very, very, very positive that they were able to keep them to a one-goal lead. But let's see what happens against UTRGV and the rest of the preseason schedule. So, after these two games, RGVFC will travel back to Edinburgh this Sunday, February 3rd. And then on the 9th, on February 9th, the Toros will play UTRGV men's soccer team at HEB Park at 7 p.m. Then at 16th of February, they will be back in Houston. They will be back here in Houston. They will play against Houston Baptist University at Houston Sports Park at noon that Saturday. And then on the 23rd, they will play Austin Bold at HEB Park. And that will be at 7 p.m. As well. And then March 1st, they will travel to San Antonio. They will play San Antonio FC at Toyota Stadium Friday, March 1st at 1 p.m. And then the 8th, March 8th, will be opening day over at Seattle Sounders 2 at 9 p.m. Central on Friday, March 8th. And then March 16th, which is a Saturday, is the home opener versus Fresno FC at HEB Park at 7:30 p.m. So, Ray, you've been around UTRGV for a while. What can you tell us about this about UTRGV's men's team?
Okay, this have really players that can be solid addition to USL side, led by Isidro Martinez, very crafty midfielder with speed. Mm-hmm. He is one of their dynamite players who graduated this past year. They have two very, very good forwards. Um, they have Akil Williams and Robbie DeLuzma, who basically played the front line of attack for UTRGV. They have some solid defenders in Marcus Bures, Michael Faber, and they had some steady goalkeeping. This was a UTRGV team that was predicted to finish 7th out of 11 teams from the Western Athletic Conference, and basically took the entire Western Athletic Conference by storm by finishing in 2nd place. So this is a really, really good challenge for the Toros and the to measure how good each of the sides are. I mean, you're talking about a UTRGV team that refuses to play the long. They're gonna play you with a lot of short, connected passes. That it's kind of almost like a free-flowing offensive style that doesn't recruit from the long ball. They just used a lot of the short, intermediate passes to wear down defenses. That would be one thing that Coach Echeverry would need to focus on. Stopping the short, intermediate passes. Stick to the attackers and the mids on a man-up basis.
That's gonna be a huge test for our midfield, especially to our pretty much brand new holding midfielders, and see how they fare against this. As you mentioned, they're very tactical, very patient UTRGV team,
and they can be short, intermediate pass team, but their speed kills. They have an excellent midfielder by the name of Bryce Walks. He is I wouldn't call him the holding midfielder, but that guy, if he gets a hold of a ball in open space, that guy can carve you up. That guy has some lethal speed.
Jacob?
Well, I mean, I don't doubt UTRGV will put up a good fight, but at the same exact time, we all know who they have to be during that night. Of course, I doubt this did RGV will do. As in RGVFC, they won't give away their cards have to play for during the USL season to UTRGV. Do expect another close game as it has been before, but the real thing that these friendlies matches are for is to figure out basically what our starting 11 will look like for the next ahead. And that is so important because you've got to know who goalkeeper will be, who your will be with your two wing backs, and just things like that. What are you going to use for the whole season? And of course, obviously, that's what look for, but we'll figure out some more answers basically throughout those games.
Breaking news in the USL environment or world. Seattle Sounders 2 is no more. They are now called the Tacoma Defiance.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
They just revealed their crest. The best way I can describe it is it's a ship in water with green octopus tentacles coming out of it. I just retweeted it on Down in the Valley's Twitter. So go ahead and check out their logo. It's interesting.
the way you just described the logo was an episode of The Simpsons where they all go to a seafood restaurant and Bart orders an octopus with extra tentacles. And then when he gets his plate, he kind of like looks at it in disgust. That's what I kind of feel right now when you describe that logo there.
Yeah, pretty much. So the interesting thing about it is that the rest of the crest is black and white. So it's a circular crest, you know, and then it's got Tacoma, Defiance all around, black and white. The center, the ship is black, the water is blue, and the tentacles are green. Kind of clashy that everything else is monochromatic, and those two aspects are in color. It's interesting. It's weird. It's something that I really haven't seen before. I guess we'll have to see what the kits look like, how it looks like in person to kind of give a final thought on what I think the crest, if it's a good crest or not. But first impressions, like I said, it's kind of clashy, and then Defiance, ships, octopi. Yeah, maybe it's because I'm not from Tacoma. Might have something to do with the city or the region, but it's kind of meh right now for me.
Well, it definitely is meh. I'm looking at it right now. It really doesn't have anything to do with the city, not even just of Washington State in general.
That's right. You've been there a
Pie
couple of
in
times.
sight.
Mm-hmm.
Ships. If they were to just stick with the ship, I think it would have looked great. It's still Defiance. Anything else? Tacoma Stars. Of course, that's already taken.
Yeah.
But you see, that's a great name. That's a pretty awesome name. I'm just shooting these out right now, and those are already so much better than Defiance.
I'm looking at their alternate badges. So the other one is kind of similar to that, but it is I'm guessing this is kind of like an alternate. It's probably going to be used for merchandise, but it says Defiantly Tacoma, and it's a water once again, and it's a hand sticking out of the water, grabbing a hold of this octopus tentacle, once again in green. And then their other alternative badge is just the Seattle Sounders 2 logo, but instead of S2, it says TAC. Interesting. But at least now they have their own identity, and I know that's what the people of Tacoma wanted. I'm not sure if they're gonna like it or not. I guess we'll see.
Basically means now that they're kind of away from Seattle Sounders. I don't necessarily, obviously, you know more than, because I doubt that the end of basically Seattle Sounders getting those extra players, especially for the Open Cup. But
here's an wow, actually, people actually like it. But here's another interesting thing, and this is kind of going past outside of men's soccer, is that Seattle Reign, the NWSL team, will also play in Tacoma come next season, from what I'm seeing here on Twitter by Chris Daniels, who is a reporter for a Seattle television station. So another interesting move right there. So anyway, enough about Tacoma, enough about S2. We're here to talk about the Toros. So what do you guys think, based on what we talked about, UTRGV, based on what we've seen from the Toros? What do you think will be the outcome from the next game, the next friendly?
For me, the next friendly, I think the score will have to be something of that sort. Maybe not 2-1, but around 3-2. Basically, I really expect it not to be out of sorts where both teams don't get a couple of goals at least.
Mm-hmm. Ray?
I kind of expect a little bit of a scoring affair only because the college team will not get enough reps due to the rules that coach would talk about off cameras for NCAA.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of expect a 2-1, 3-1 win for the Toros, and that's just being me.
Mm-hmm. I think it's gonna be a 2-2 tie. That's what I think. I think it's gonna be a 2-2 tie. I think our biggest question mark is going to be the holding the defensive midfielders and see how they do. Because I think the bar was set high last year's with Nico Perea and Todd Warden, and this year it's going to be pretty much 100% different with whether it's Romilio Hernandez or any other trialists. I think that's going to be something that we're probably going to suffer. A position that we're probably going to suffer at the beginning of the season.
I'm going to make a bold claim right.
All right.
I think Emilio claimed that defensive. He's going to take over that spot that Nicolas Perea had in the past.
I can see that happening. Now, based on this, my question is: Will we have somebody this season that will replace the leadership, the example set by Todd Warden? Will we have that this year? And if so, who do you think will be?
You're asking who might be the new captain?
Even if they're not the official captain, I mean, who do you think will be the player that's gonna have a leadership role, even if it's without the armband? You know, who's gonna be the leader of this team? Kyle Adams. Jacob?
That's a great choice right there. Is Kyle Adams as well, and I kind of agree with you. But at the same time, I think Kyle Adams will actually be captain. Now, a second leader that will help this team out. And I know he's basically just been a first-year player, but now, of course, the second year playing with RGV for sure. Chuy Enriquez, another man who can become friends with basically anyone on any type of team. He's got that confidence boost, basically, about himself.
I don't.
He seems like he can be a leader too.
I have to disagree on that. He's talented. He's a pretty cool guy. He's talented on the pitch, but I don't see him, like, at least this year, being a leader, setting the tempo, knowing how to control his team. In summary, I think he's still a little bit too hot-tempered to be a leader in this team. And Todd Warden was a calm person. He set the tone of this team, and I think, like I said, Chuy Enriquez is still a little bit too hot-tempered for me to consider him a leader for the Toros. If anything, it's either Kyle Adams or Connor Donovan.
Oh, we'll even see if Connor Donovan kind of stays with RGVFC, especially this year.
Well, they didn't offer him an MLS contract. He's with the Toros, so that must mean he has a USL contract for now.
For now, he's got a USL contract with, let's say, Houston, or excuse me, not Houston. Wow, of RGVFC. Why I say that is because the last person who did not really have this contract Well, he got kicked off the team, basically, to Portland Timbers, too. So he even leaves this team before the season starts. But, of course, since he didn't get offered that contract, I think we'll still see him in a Houston Dynamo jersey for, of course, the Open Cup games when Houston Dynamo actually need him. That being said, though, yes, I do agree that it could probably be...
Hold on.
I kind of see his health being...
Hold on, Ray. Go ahead.
Aldo Quintanilla.
Oh.
With that would be the language barrier. He's just not as fluent in English as he is in Spanish, and I think somewhat of Kyle Adams, I think they have that perfectly. They can languages, and that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that Kyle Adams would be the perfect captains, because the way I see it, I would prefer somebody that's in the back, someone that's a defender or a goalkeeper or a holding midfielder be the captains, because they're the ones that sees everything. They're usually the ones that are, especially midfielders and defenders, they're usually the ones that can be prepared to go and be a mediator with between his players and the referee. Whereas an attacker, I mean, you gotta stay focused to score goals and things like that. And with Aldo, like you said, the language barrier, I think it's going to be right now an issue still with him. So I'm trying to think of somebody else. If anything. Yeah, the only two I can think of is Kyle and Connor. Connor, because he has a lot of experience already with MLS when he was with Orlando in USL as well. So he's got experience. Kyle Adams, he's an international player with New Zealand, so he's got that experience under his belt as well. So, and everybody else, Nico Corti, Chuy, Aldo, they don't have that much experience, especially Nico and all the players that came out of college. They're not ready right now to be a leader, a captain. If anything, Carlos is small, but then again, we run into the same issue with the language barrier. So if I was Coach Echeverri, it'd be between Connor and Kyle.
I agree completely for sure. For Kyle Adams, it goes back to him being a Kiwi, him being a New Zealander. And what are they known for? Well, for being calm, even in the most stressful, almost possible. So, yeah. It does really go back. I think he would be perfect leader. He's been under that. When you have that national team experience as well, more things than you did before, especially soccer-wise, you're seeing, well, the way that just obviously you're getting more and more mature, playing away for your country, and you know how much soccer means now. Mm-hmm. So it's just a big thing.
All right. You guys have anything else to add with that topic before we go on?
Well, I mean, I think I just said my last thing. You got anything else to add, Ray?
I mean, there is another subject that Edson was talking about at the very beginning when I first tuned in on the YouTube. The Malik Foster thing. I kind of see the Malik Foster thing kind of like the way when Landon Donovan was loaned out by the Galaxy to Everton, that type of a short-term loan. It's very unfortunate that we're not going to have him this season, but it would be one of those things that I would like to see Malik Foster get his contract brought out. My favorite interesting prospect for the upcoming season would be Camilo Monroy. He's a player that I'm actually interested in seeing in a full season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know Coach Echeverri has a lot of good things. He's another player that Coach Echeverri wants to see more minutes of and see what he's made of, because obviously last season he was only available for like the last 3 games, I think, or something like that.
Yep.
And coming off of an injury, so hopefully with this preseason under his belt, we'll see a lot more out of Camilo Monroy with RGVFC in his return to the Toros. So I think the last thing I want to talk about, and just really quickly, I know it's going to be a shorter episode than what we usually have. But the last thing I want to talk about, unless somebody from the YouTube chat tells us a topic that they would like to talk about, and that is the new unis, the new uniforms for the Toros for 2019. The only thing we know for sure is that this year we're not going to be using Nike anymore. We are going to use Adidas. They will be the ones that will provide the kits for the Toros this season. I'm not sure if it's a multi-year deal or anything. Those details have not been released or anything official been said by the team. The only thing that's official, or why we think it's official, is because during these preseason games, the Toros have been using Adidas training gear with the Toros logo placed on them, which leads me to believe that we will be using Adidas for 2019. All I know for sure is that obviously our primary kit will be orange, and so it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what the kit will look like when it is presented before the season starts, if they do create an official presentation for them.
If they do, it's when they just decide to release them behind all the media's and even the Stampede's back, as I do believe that will happen. Just like the last one, they won't have... We're obviously hoping that they will, but things have been run in the years for just RGV sports in general. I don't see there being a show that says, this is our new... Well, there's not a lot of media down here that also covers this team, first off.
Mm-hmm.
And second off, how many people actually do know or care about this team? A lot, as basically the team deserves.
Yeah.
I am really excited for Adidas due to the fact that it is Adidas, and it's not a big Nike. I know, yes, Adidas is pretty big, but obviously Nike still runs the world of sports in that sort.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Adidas has always been right there, and they've always created fantastic clothing, especially the jerseys. Look at the jerseys for MLS. I still have my Houston Dynamo jersey from 2011 or even 2010 season.
Yeah.
And that has like no rips or anything like that. So they make great. I think they should, if it is a multi-year deal, that's a smart thing. If it's not yet, they should probably make it a multi-year thing.
Ray?
Here's my thoughts on it. If the team stays away from that Dynamo concept of the uniform, fine. Like, say for example, they wear their orange and white kits at home, and then on the road they give us the old Dynamo template with the black jerseys on them. That would be something that would like kind of bother me a little bit.
So you would not be a fan of the away kit being dark.
No. Not at all. Because then it would be truly looking like a total second team.
I do see his point, because all away kits are normally white, and I think I do like that white look when you're away, colors when you're home.
Yeah, I mean, I think that white and blue combination has been a characteristic for the Toros since the beginning. And any deviation from that in the away kit, I think a lot of people that are huge fans of the Toros would be like, what's going on? I mean, obviously our white kit didn't sell as much as the orange kit, but it still sold decently. I mean, last year's away kit looked really, really good, with that blue and white and blue shorts. And in 2016, it was the same. White Nike top, blue shorts, blue socks. And so that's been consistently, that was a Toros thing, white and blue. And I hope that they continue with this tradition under Adidas. But I mean, I personally wouldn't mind a dark kit as a secondary. But I do see Ray's point, because tradition has been established that our away kits are white and blue. So, like I said, I enjoy dark kits. I mean, I'm wearing the black goalkeeper one because I like it. But I personally have always seen a black kit as our third kit, not necessarily our away kit.
I'd just be getting creative here because I don't see this happening at all. But what if for the away kit they did something like on your side they were to make it orange, or like that orange kind of lighting with blue? You mean with
like
their old jersey just on the sides though, and to the sleeves, and then made the rest like white, and obviously it had the logo and then the sponsorship.
You mean similar to the design that I created?
Exactly, because that design does look good technically.
Let me go ahead and
honestly be real.
Yeah, let me go ahead and post it up on the screen so you guys can see it, so you guys can see an idea of what Jacob is kind of talking about. So it's on the screen right now, and this is I created this. I was just messing with the Adidas My Team creator, and so I came up with this design. So this is I don't remember what the name of the template is, but it maintains a little bit of tradition. It's a white shirt. The secondary color is blue. As you can see, there's a majority of blue on the collar, the stripes, the designs here on the sides and on the sleeves with a detail of a little bit of orange. And I honestly would have loved to see this as an away kit, but I guess we'll see what gets released by the Toros, and by the time March comes around. I highly doubt that they'll have some sort of event, just because that's pretty much what they've been doing the last couple of years, and I highly doubt things will be different this time. Call me a pessimist in that regard, but I'm pretty sure that's probably what's going to happen. But I can only hope that it'll be a decent design that people will love.
Exactly. Now, if they were to do something like this, I'd be okay with, as in just like artists do with a record drop. They'll say, well, design on the Twitter page or on all these social media pages at midnight on this day. Mm-hmm. I'd be all right with that. It wouldn't have to be so big. And then obviously they can talk about it whenever they want to make a press conference after that.
Yeah.
I think that would be a perfect way to really unveil something.
I just feel there has to be a lot more involvement with the fans from this organization. I think we continue to lack in that aspect, and hopefully that's alleviated. But from what my gut feeling is happening, I think things are going to stay the same in that regard, which is a shame.
Well, listen, you call it pessimistic. I don't look at it that way. I mean, you got to take a look at what happened last season, and you got to look at what we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
Was there change? Yes, there was, because we even had a show about this, and now this is a pretty much shows. This is pretty much a shows what you got type moment from the organization to the fans. I mean, there was drastic change, and if they want to conquer back those fans, this is the moment that they have to take advantage of, in my opinion, from a media standpoint, from a fan standpoint. That's something that they this is the opportunity to seize the moment.
I don't know, man. I feel like they're running out of time. I mean, yeah, there were some changes last season, but I feel like this is a time that, remember, they came in in the middle of the season, mm-hmm.
and now that they've had like somewhat of an off season to prepare something, this is kind of like their big stage moment.
But don't you think this is a missed opportunity if they don't do a jersey reveal?
Okay.
You can at least, if you don't want to have like the whole fan base going to the jersey reveal party, at least have the season ticket members go. Season ticket members are asking, well, what do I get out of getting a season ticket? You know, there's not a lot of.
I agree with you there. I completely agree with you there that they're running out of time in that aspect. You know, but like I said, this is like kind of like their moment, and that moment may be March 1st or 2nd. Who knows? Maybe a week before, they may invite all media members and season ticket holders to have a little private get together and hopefully get some good news out of it. You know.
Well, I guess we'll see. We'll see what they decide. I mean, if anything gets announced,
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt only because they've had like a total off season to think about how to think not to think the restructuring, but actually putting the restructuring into play now. This isn't about continuing the restructuring or anything like that. I think the restructuring is already done. I think this would be the time and place to, like, okay, you want to gain our trust back. This is it. You know, this is kind of like the moment. And I kind of hope they're listening too. I kind of hope.
Yeah,
I've worked in so many independent teams or non-affiliated teams that's kind of like the one lacking theme that I've missed out on because of resources.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of like the opportunity to show off those resources and to put them into play.
What do you think, Jacob, out of all of this?
Out of all this,
and Jacob, I'll give you a fair share of disclaimer. You saw me work a couple of games. You saw the treatment. You saw everything. You're an aspiring journalist under the direction of Teclo Garcia and soon to be college student. Therefore, you have been warned. You have seen a bit of the ugliness, and you are seeing some of the work in progress, sir. And I'll give you the stage right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, on office standpoint, you're correct. This front office needs to interact with the fans a lot more. So tough to do that when half the time, barely marketing towards the right people. And then, of course, to even go further and just talk about this whole jersey reveal thing. Yeah, you've got to do something with that. They also have the stage. They made those changes. Is it going to be enough? Well, obviously not if they can't, also sell tickets. Yeah, sell tickets to season ticket holders that also want more benefit. So it's a way that it needs to be done, and it needs to be done right. Well, it's only time will tell, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
They can be the best team in the Valley by far, as in the way that it's run for fans. They just need to put themselves in the right direction, and that's to get the fans involved, to not steal logos from their support groups. That will also help.
Ouch!
I'm ducking for cover. Sean, please come crash this party, please.
Ouch!
Please, Sean, I beg you. I promise not to talk AWS with party crashes.
Oof! Wow. Well, that was interesting, but I mean, you've already. I mean, okay, so it's out there. What are you talking about? Explain what you mean by that. Now that the topic has been released unexpectedly, I can assure you. What are you talking about, Jacob?
Well, I mean, the group chat, basically, of the Stampede, there was one person, well, actually the Flyers for RGVFC, they have the Stampede logo on them.
Mm-hmm.
Found out by that group chat, and it's pretty interesting to say so the least, considering they own the Stampede. The Stampede was created out of the goodness of hardcore fans. And, of course, they built their own brand up. They made those stickers.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's on the Toros Flyers without their really knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to... What... Something like that coming? Yes, because of the fact that it's just the way that this front office has kind of been run without, well, just with no give and more of just a take. The only thing that they basically gave that group for the whole year was I don't really think that they gave it to them, considering that I think the Stampede might have even gotten that offer of free the whole game by LNF distributors. I don't believe it was really given to them by the Toros, so that's also something. It's just, like I said, more take than give. So, and of course that just broke right now because, and things did slip, but can't necessarily do that.
And it's honestly a good thing you brought it up, because people need to realize that while this organization has done great things, that as Ray mentions, they've improved on a lot of things. There are some things that are still very lackluster, and in this aspect, and that's one of the things that I was trying to get at, this organization is still lacking, and that is the connection between fans and the team. Let's not get started. Well, actually, we already started on this topic of between the club and the supporter groups and the supporter group. I mean, like you said, you know, it's been a lot of promises that were not kept or were kind of like halfway kept, or like not full. The full promise wasn't done. I understand that there's resource that this team is running on limited resources, and whatever you want to call it. But if you as an organization, if you as an owner have made a promise to your supporter groups, which is supposed to be your number one fans, they're supposed to be the face of the fan base, and you don't treat them well. I mean, if your supporter group is not happy, what makes you think that your regular fans are going to be happy? So your supporter group right now is not happy. Stampede's not happy. Your season ticket home members are not happy either, because they're like, well, I mean, we buy season tickets, but what do we get out of it? What are you offering me as a season ticket holder that will convince me to splurge all that money like right away instead of buying game by game? And from what a couple of season ticket members or former season ticket members, including my parents, who used to be in 2017, and the reason they stopped getting for 2018 is they didn't see a benefit. They didn't see a benefit of getting season ticket holders. And I know we've talked about this before, but now that we're closing in on the beginning of the season, I think it's important to talk about it again. Yes, prices have already been pricing for season tickets for 2019 have already been released. But I don't recall seeing any of you guys, if you guys can check out that link about season tickets for 2019 and tell me if I'm wrong. But I don't recall seeing any like benefits that are explicitly stated for season ticket holders. And you cannot expect for fans to splurge that money, like, even though you can do payments, but it's only for like 2 months. So they put all that money up front, where sometimes it's cheaper if you just go on a game by game basis. So events like Meet the Players Night, Jersey Reveal Nights, and any other or maybe like practices for season ticket members only, all of those things are benefits that will convince more than likely people to buy the season tickets. I mean, the Dynamo, while they may not be the best when it comes to that, they at least have Meet the Team Night at the Dave & Buster's here, where they'll meet the players, they'll take pictures with the players, they'll get autographs of the players, they'll play video games in the arcade alongside the Dynamo players for one night for season ticket members. That in and of itself, if I had the money and if I wasn't going to the games as media, I would buy the season ticket for that specific reason. But the Toros don't have any of that. It's the fourth. We're entering the fourth season for the Toros. You can't tell me that, oh, we don't have enough time to plan all of this. You have since the new organization came in after Bert Garcia stepped down, you have all of this offseason to plan something like that. Now I hope during the middle of the season something like that is announced, Meet the Team Night, whatever. But right now, you're starting off on the wrong foot by not offering a jersey reveal party. I mean, Phoenix Rising just had their reveal party. Tacoma Defiance, they released their stuff in front of the media, in front of a couple of fans. Why are we not doing this? Why are you so why are your decisions made to continue to push away the fans, especially your hardcores? I don't understand. You have
it's tough to not under.
I mean, you have to
it's
invest
tough to
money.
not under.
Go ahead.
Tough to understand people who, who do that, basically. And then, of course, to add on this, I don't necessarily believe that VFC has a permanent president. Garcia stepped down, and now you basically have the Vipers president kind of running this whole show.
We don't.
So that also puts pressure, too.
There were rumors that they were doing interviews for RGVFC president. Nothing's been announced. There was no update. The last I heard was they were interviewing the ex president of the Columbus Crew, and that's it. It all died from there. No updates on that. Nothing. Now I said a minute before, and I understand, and it all goes back with money. It's all about the money, boy. But you have to invest somewhere. You have to you have to spend money to make money. Okay? Think of it as an investment to try to get more people, even the casuals, in on this team. If you don't do that, if you're going to be stingy about it, then don't complain when the steam is never full, or don't complain that nobody talks about the Toros, or very few people talk about the Toros on social media, because you're not doing your part as a club to get us involved. The reason I am involved, the reason Rey is involved, the reason Jacob is involved, the reason Cesar is involved, the reason Stampede is involved with this organization is because we love soccer, we support local soccer. You, as RGVFC, are representing the Rio Grande Valley. And that's why we're taking time out of our lives to cover this team, in the case of Stampede, to make tifos, prepare chants, prepare everything come game day. But the casuals don't have that dedication. And if you don't take your time, you don't take your resources to make them feel important as well to the team, they're not going to come. This isn't a build it and they will come thing. I've said it many times. I said it before Bert Garcia stepped down, and I'll say it again. This is not build it and they will come. You have to put your part as an organization to make these people, these fans, feel like they're a part of something. A lot of people out there in the Rio Grande Valley believe that RGVFC does not represent the Valley. And something has to be done. It's ridiculous. And I sincerely hope that there's somebody out there in the organization that's either listening right now live or when the podcast comes up. Because I'm sick and tired of everything that we say, anything that Sean says, anything that I say, anything that Jacob or Cesar or Rey or anybody or Stampede, anything that they say fall on deaf ears. I'm tired, and I sure as hell believe that you guys are tired as well. While I do say, and I do admit that there's been a couple of things that have improved by this organization, there's still a lot more to be done, and I do not see any improvements on that.
Well, the best way to probably get the front office to notice this, Edson, there's something on the RGV Vipers webpage. Email him the link to our show and get it sent to him. Because this is probably the only way. I mean, sure, the PR team does a fabulous job attending to us, but that's only one part. If we can get the front office to notice even more, okay, now we can probably knock the door and scream a little out back to get some attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And another thing, too, is how attendance basically last year for RGVFC, looking at, the games right there, especially one of the last home games that RGVFC had was Fresno FC, September 29th, 2018, according to, obviously, USLsoccer.com, which sometimes isn't the best to get this information, but 4,489 attendees. Of course, you're talking about a stadium that seats
9,500.
1,000 plus.
I believe
that's still technically less than half full. So you're averaging maybe 4,000 fans a game. Seat stadium when the first season you almost had double that.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone goes through that sophomore slump for a new stadium. Now, it seems like the way that obviously advertised, it's going to stay that way. And if it does, something will need to be done, because John has said this as well, and it's the truth. In any sort is a privilege. It is never a right.
Amen.
Why Seattle only has a soccer club and barely is getting a hockey team. Why LA, well, not even LA, the whole reason why football team or something like that. Well, because it's a privilege. On who really wants to go there.
Especially with the way American sports is run, where these are franchises and not clubs. With more of a reason, it's a privilege and not a right. And RGV has gone through it before, so it's not something that's new. We lost to the Grandes. We lost the Bravos in the PDL. So fans cannot tell me, oh, we don't know what happened. We have no idea that we might lose. That there's a possibility we can lose this team. It's happened twice before, just in soccer. How many times has it happened with indoor soccer? How many times has it happened with hockey, arena football? You name it. Baseball.
Hockey and arena football, it was mainly the league's fault. But
I mean, it doesn't change the fact that we had a team and we lost it for whatever reason. Whether it's the team's fault or the league's fault, we lost a team that was playing in our league or in our area. So people need to understand this. While fans need to put their part, and we've discussed this in other episodes, the team needs to do their part as well. And I feel that maybe I'm being unrealistic. Maybe I'm being too hard on the team, on the organization. I don't know. But where it matters, when it comes to interaction between fan and club, the club has kind of been a letdown in that regard. And like we've said before, if anybody from the front office is listening to us, The platform is open to you guys for you all to give your point of view as well. We're not going to be one of those that it's going to be an echo chamber and it's just going to be what our opinion that matters. If somebody has a differing opinion, whether it's a fan that's listening to us or somebody from the front office from the organization, maybe we're saying something, maybe we don't know the whole story. Set us straight. This platform is for you as well. But we want our fans to be as informed as possible. And I think we've done a hell of a job this past season in some aspects. Some aspects that we need to improve as well. I'm gonna accept it. We're not perfect either. But because of how drastic American sports can be, and how from one moment to the next you can lose a team. Heck, we already lost the Killer Bees. They hadn't even started playing one single game.
No,
yeah.
let's backtrack there a little bit, Edson. They had a couple of games under their belts before all the legality issues began for them.
League games?
Yeah, they had a couple of league games already in.
Okay, sounds fair. Thanks for the correction.
I mean, I'm not a walking encyclopedia of RGV professional sports of any means, but I can tell you that a lot of the teams that I've worked for, and I'll say it on record right now. There's been some very, very poor leadership to them, and if you pick a sport, I can talk you into it. Unless Sean decides to party crash the party here, but if you pick a sport, I will speak on record.
Baseball.
What killed it? Poor ownership. Poor ownership of the league. You see, the league owned all the teams, and thus they weren't responsible fiscally to pay the rents of all the cities.
Mm-hmm. What do you know? What do you know about the ground base?
Do you want me to continue with? If you want me to continue with other sports, just bring it up. And
I got you. I got one more for you. Hopefully, you might know something. RGV Grandes.
I'm gonna go ahead and give a pass on that, only because I felt like that was another ownership thing that killed the team. They didn't know. I'm going to go ahead and pass on them only because there just wasn't enough information to kill the team or not. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories, and the only one conclusion that I can come to it is that they were poorly mismanaged. They were poorly mismanaged, sold to a group that didn't know anything about the game of soccer, and pretty much drove that team to the ground.
The point is, just
now, I don't believe that is going on with the Toros.
No.
I don't believe it's going on.
No, but my point is that in American soccer, just as easily as we can get a team, we can lose it much easier. Mm-hmm. In the future, you never know. Dynamo might decide, hey, you know what? This just isn't work. This relationship isn't working out for us. They might pull their support, technical support, out of the Toros. They might, and we end up getting independence. And it turns out that we're not ready financially. The team goes under, or they decide, hey, you know what, we're taking this team to another to another city. That can happen as well. And that's what I'm trying to mean. Is like fans and the organization need to understand that this thing can end at any time. And while this organization is still running, both sides need to make the effort to benefit each other for the time that we are together. Fans need to go out there and support this team. We need to attend the matches. But the organization has to do their part in order and convince them that their time, their money spent on the team will be worth it. And that also includes their relationship with media's relationship with the team. And it's all, everything goes into this recipe, and everybody's got to pull together. And if somebody doesn't do their part, then this might crumble. That's all I have to say on that in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think there's anything else to considering now that it's basically been mismanagement, ownership, whether it's the league who own the teams or who didn't know a lick about soccer. We know that they know stuff about basketball here in the Valley. Well, then buckle down and, well, just interact. That's all we really want right now is interaction, news from especially the front office to say things. We want the front office on our show. We don't want to just bash them. We want to tell their story so that not only we know, the media, but the fans know. It all reverts back to the fans. That's who we want in our seats. That's one way to do it, by just the front office, basically. Everyone around that organization telling us what the heck is going on.
See, we
Perfect
don't
way as well to say it.
See, we don't need to know the complete in and outs of what's going on in the organization, but just give us an idea of what they're doing to help the fans. That's all we really care. There's not a lot of transparency within the organization. Not even the Dynamo has transparency, but hey, that's not an excuse for it. Oh, if the Dynamo do it that way, then I guess we should do it that way too. No. We know we know the things that Dynamo lacks. We are not Dynamo. We are RGVFC. We are two completely different entities, and just because our parent team does things one way doesn't mean we have to do it the same way. Especially with the fact is that the Houston market is completely different from the RGV market. In fact, according to this one study, we're the 5th largest soccer market in the United States. Houston's the 2nd. RGV is the 5th. But the point is that you have to make this worthwhile for the fans. Make them proud to say, "Hey, I support RGVFC." Why? For many reasons. But the number one reason is because I believe that this team is representative of my region, of my hometown. Heck, I mean, I tell the guys at the Dynamo Discord, hey, I'm more of an RGV fan than a Dynamo fan. And I've been a Dynamo fan longer than an RGV fan. But why? Because it represents my hometown. But a lot of people aren't convinced that easily. Like I said. But that's marketing department's job to convince them. And this whole hashtag We Are Toros, hashtag Somos Toros is so generic. It doesn't instill any pride in the valley. At least that's my opinion. Something needs to be done. I think while there, like I said, have been improvements, there's still a lot more to be done. And we're running out of time. We're running out of that leeway where we're getting so close to the point of no return. And the time is now to act. You guys have anything more to add before we sign off tonight?
Well, not really necessarily on this thing, but actually shout out to this one person, because I was looking at Rio Grande Valley FC versus Fresno FC from the attendance thing. Shout out to Cooper. Yes, there is an Alex Cooper that plays for Fresno FC. I think that is a pretty freaking cool name, considering that is a name of a famous person.
Big shout out to Alex Cooper then.
But yeah, exactly.
Right.
Alex Cooper, obviously.
Any last...
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't want to gloat about my experience here, but upon working minor league sports in the Rio Grande Valley, but it's become a pretty common theme that ownerships here in the Valley haven't been fully responsible. Now, the Vipers, I will say this much. Okay, they've made it for over a decade now. Kudos to that. Now, because basketball has been like a new thing to the Valley as far as a professional sport. But soccer, this is like our third go around. Maybe those bridges that were burned from the Bravos and Grandes, those bridges are taking a lot longer to heal than a front office would. And that's all I'm going to say, because those bridges that were burned in the past are taking major tollways into the present right now. And this is me not defending anyone, but this is just me putting everything on a balance from a historical standpoint. But this is going to be one of those projects where if it makes, it makes. That's all I'm going to say to that.
I don't think I could have said it better myself. Well,
because you were obviously there, both Bravos and Grandes. I really wanted to be there, but I just didn't have the knowledge or the resources. And I'll share the story personally. I really wanted to go support the Bravos and Grandes personally myself, but being that I was a very young person that had very, very limited resources, I was forcibly chose. Well, it wasn't by force, but my parents at the time viewed that baseball was a better sport than soccer. I would say otherwise, like, hey, let's give this an opportunity. And they even gave arena football an opportunity themselves, although we never purchased season tickets. We never did. But I just felt like the people running the Bravos Grandes really burned some bridges. They really did. How? I don't know, because I don't have all the facts and evidence, but I can tell you stories about arena football. I can tell you stories about independent baseball. I can tell you stories about arena soccer myself too.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just something that the burning of the bridges and the restoration of those bridges have to be repaired. Is it going to take time? Absolutely. But it will take time to make the people fall in love again with soccer down here. And that's all I'm going to say for tonight. And God bless to all.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Jacob, for joining us. Joining tonight on the second episode of 2019 of Down in the Valley. Guys, I really appreciate all of y'all for sticking around for these 2 hours that the show went on. I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy seeing people rant for a long period of time. I think I ranted for like about 20-30 minutes. And I thank you all for sticking around. Hopefully we'll see you all in maybe next week. We'll see what kind of information gets released and throughout the next week, and hopefully.
And one final plea, Edson. One final plea.
Go ahead,
Sean. I'm calling you out. Be on the show next week, please. Maybe you can help this show a little bit here, but please join. Just join. Give us inside depth that probably Edson, myself, and Jacob probably may not have with the Toros, only because you have a lot of inner knowledge within the Dynamo. But please, Sean, just join in. And I'll promise to be nice.
So thank you all for joining tonight's episode. We hope you really enjoyed it. Be sure to stick around. Not stick around, but be sure to keep you on the lookout on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Store or Google Podcasts, iTunes, and SoundCloud for whenever when we release this episode for the podcast. Just to let y'all know, from here on out, our podcast will be cut up into sections depending on the themes that we talk about. I think it'll be a lot easier for all of you to kind of navigate through the podcast, and if there's a specific subject that you're really interested in knowing about, you don't have to search through the whole 2-hour audio to find it. So I think hopefully that'll be a big benefit for all of y'all. Be sure to check out.
Here's one final tip for you, Edson. This last segment, call it the Revelations.
That's really, really good. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna call it. It's a really, really good. It really, really describes what happened in this last section. So be sure to also, before I let y'all go, be sure to follow us on our social media. Twitter at Down in the RGV, Facebook facebook.com/DownInTheRGV, and Instagram at Down in the RGV. Be sure to read Ray's articles on BGN Written,
which I haven't done.
But will be happening as the season progresses. Be sure to also check out my articles that I will continuously be writing in Spanish with our friends from Mente Futbolera. And hopefully we can get our downintheRGV.com website back soon, hopefully. So we can continue to write our articles for RGVFC on that website. Be sure to check out our friends at the Beautiful Game Network. They make all of this possible with the podcast and the hosting. Be sure to follow them at the BGNFM on Twitter. And check out their sponsor, which is Roughneck Scarves. They're the official scarf supplier of the MLS, USL, and NCAA. But this has been it for tonight's episode. Hope you all have a good night and enjoy the rest of your week. And hopefully we'll see each other next week. Guys, say good night. Good night, guys. Jacob?
Later.
Good night, guys. And hashtag we are todos. Hashtag somos todos. Hashtag fear the valley. Have a good night.